We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. I'm host Leaha Mattinson and want to first of all say thank you so much for everybody who's tuning in from wherever you are on this beautiful planet today. If you're tuning in via podcast, please make sure to come join us over at the masteryourlife.ca website so that you can watch the video version or check it out on the YouTube channel. Today, I'm welcoming again to the show Dr. David Hardy. Dr. Dave, how are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me again. This is always exciting, so I appreciate the conversations.
And you know what? Dr. Dave is from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. He works out of the Collegiate Sports Center. For those of you who haven't tuned into any of our previous episodes, I want to encourage you to do that because we've talked about everything neurological from birth to death, and then getting into some more sensitive subjects. Our last episode that we did together, we talked about exertion and really, putting forward our best energy in life, but we didn't really get into sort of the details of actually post-exertion recovery. So we wanted to talk in this episode today about sort of the concept of exertion. Who is exerting themselves through what age and stage of life? And, if you're somebody who is tired and listless, or you're exhausted a lot of the time, or you find yourself going to treatments or looking for therapies to try to improve and increase your energy, it could be because you actually have a problem with managing your afterplay, your exhaustion sort of factor. So Tune in and share this episode with anybody who who might be struggling with their energy. So Dr. Dave, what is exertion? What is it? What does it matter to us?
Right. Well, exertion is basically just bringing your body and your brain to another level of activity and really pushing that envelope sometimes. So you think of an athlete doing a whole bunch of sprints or skating really hard, sweating, lifting those weights, dropping them, and being absolutely tired and shattered afterwards. And well, the same can be with mental exertion as well, though. We can be doing a task and we can just be sitting, and then next thing we notice, we're just kind of in this dazed state and not able to do much. So really just kind of pushing the envelope of what we can do in a certain period of time. And yeah, it happens too with just daily life, running around all over the place. And if you have kids as well, then geez, you're exerting yourself all the time because, well, they require a ton of energy, as every parent out there knows. So there's all sorts of different types of exertion, and we shouldn't upplay or downplay any of them. We should recognize them for what they are. It's once again pushing yourself to the point where things kind of fatigue, and then or even close to that fatigue rates multiple times per day can be even worse than just one big bout of really pushing our limits type thing.
And so what do you mean when you say it's worse maybe to be doing multiple things of exertion? Because I'm thinking of young parents or people with young children, maybe not young parents, but people with children. And That's kind of like go to work your tail off. Well, at least here in Alberta, Canada, I'm sure throughout the world, those people who are listening to this show who are trying to master their life probably are, or recovering, whatever it is. There's people that are high exertion maybe already anyway. So you go, well, what's going on here? I go to work, I work my 8-hour shift. I put in a good shift at work, and then I come home and the kids are really demanding. My spouse is also not had their needs met. And there's nothing for supper that's been cooked. So I need to do that now. And then I need to actually, attend to all the little daily tasks. So changing, bums or entertaining kids or helping them with homework or taking them to their activities. Or if you have any and if there's any extension beyond the family, like with pets, responsibility of community members, if you're sitting on any boards or you're involved in your child's school, there's all this like on and on and on. So,
Right.
and then you may or may not sleep depending on what the infants are doing at night. So,
and just thinking about it makes people tired.
Right. That's why I'm saying it out loud. I'm reminding myself of all the really difficult.
Is this your checklist for the day?
Yeah, that's right. Well, and it's my children's checklist also, right? Because I'm a grandmother. So I do think that it's easy to be dismissive of just how much energy this all takes. Because too, we get exhausted as caregivers and caretakers and support people. So it's really important to recognize it, first of all, for what it is. So so let's go back to the question is, why is it maybe more troublesome to have several exhaustions versus one exhaustion a day?
Right. Because if you think about one exhaustion, then the rest of the day is basically a time to recover from it. Whereas if we think of multiple different, maybe lower grade exhaustions, the analogy of you're trying to sprint through a marathon kind of comes to my mind, is that you're never able to really recover and get your body back into the condition it needs to be for that next big bout of exertion. And it really is kind of this chronic stage of fatigue constantly. And it's not sustainable. And even if you think about it, okay, well, yeah, sure, I'm able to be able to function like this barely throughout my day, throughout my weeks, months, years. But then we start to notice kind of in that middle life stage or later life stage that things have really deteriorated on us. So even if you are able to kind of hold to some sort of routine constantly with sprinting through marathons constantly, then eventually it does catch up with us. And we do see these stages later in life where the system just starts to fatigue out on us. And or even sooner in a lot of entrepreneurs, career people, leadership roles, you'll see people burn out even into their late 20s, 30s, and have those crashes and crises. And that's never fun to even observe in somebody, yet alone to be in those situations. So yeah, it is a huge problem in today's society. And we mentioned a little bit about the great resignation, where all these career people now are resigning from their roles in corporate culture because of basically being forced to work in all sorts of obscene conditions without any satisfaction or without that rest time to actually recover.
So let's talk about the rest time to recover, as I'm curious about why is it for each person a different amount of recovery time, or is there some sort of a body triggers or things that we would notice ourselves where we could actually go, okay, yes, I'm well rested now. Now is the time that I could start again. For the people who are going like really fatigued, really exhausted, I think that you almost don't even notice until
you don't.
Right. You're just so going, and you never cut yourself any slack, or rarely cut yourself slack. And also because so many people around you have so many expectations, they too are almost thrown off balance if you show any signs of wavering. It's like, hang on a minute, they're fine.
or why are you so weak, or that self-judgment, oh, other people can do this, why can't I? And the thing is, we're really horrible at monitoring our own fatigue rates, because it's survival mode, and survival mode is there to get us through adverse events without being able to have time to reflect or to to take those rests when we need it. And the more we're in that survival mode, then the more entrained it becomes. And then it just becomes about surviving, and you're really not able to, once again, do anything about yourself and to monitor it. So yeah, other people will notice it usually before you do, because you're so focused on that task or just surviving your day or getting through or helping the kids out, helping the husband, wife, whatever, getting the work done at work, and then the homework and everything else. It just becomes the next task and getting through it versus, okay, well, what's actually going on with myself and my body, my brain, when I'm in these survival situations? And once again, is it causing me to slowly decline or to accelerate that aging process? And if we actually thought about that, we'd be really stunned by the answer that, yeah, we're accelerating our aging and our fatigue rates by constantly living in this survival situation versus finding times to actually, once again, heal and let our bodies get back into taking care of themselves.
This is such a great point too, in how culture indoctrinates people to not honor aging, and also at the same time to go, I saw this headline and went, you've got to be kidding me. 90 is now the new 40. I'm like, what are you trying to tell people? What is it you're trying to tell people here? That, like, honestly, you have to have absolutely nobody in your life in order for 90 to be the new 40. You have to have zero responsibility. You have to not ever look at anything that's going on in your world. So that's a very new agey idea. If we just kind of gloss over everything that's going on, then of course nothing affects you.
Right. Yeah.
But even if you're really a good manager, a good life manager, life is serious. It's hard. There's many things to do in it that are troublesome and difficult and roadblocks and
well, once again, I'm going to go back to my saying, life should be mostly fun.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's all these trying events, everything else, but like family and being around kids and everything else, that should be mostly fun. Like, these are great connections that we should have. And work, like our career, it takes up so much time in our lives. It should be mostly fun. That, yeah, we should love that intellectual stimulation or working with our hands and that connection we develop with other people. It shouldn't have to always be draining. And I think we're doing it completely wrong if it is constantly something draining. And we really need to evaluate things if that's the case. And it is the case with a lot of people out there. And it's time for a shift in across society, but that shift isn't going to happen unless you focus on yourself as well. And it really is time to use that airplane analogy and put the oxygen mask on yourself first, so that then you can help other people as well.
Yeah, I love it. And the last 2 years, I think, have been particularly challenging for a number of people for a number of reasons. Work's been more difficult for some to be able to find. There's been exclusion of some people who don't want to go along with current sort of let's say rules, laws, or suggestions and ideas that are being heavily pushed. And so, it's not as easy as it was 5 years ago to be able to negotiate life. And so also in the life should be mostly fun. It's also the seriousness of going, then how do you actually deal with these challenges that are very, very new and interesting without being dismissive of them? And here, an example I'll use from this morning is I was standing here prior to getting on the interview, and I just pulled out like a little bit of, I have this like aromatherapy roller thingy that I like the smell of it. So I was just like, oh, that smells so good. I put a little bit on my hands and I put a little bit in my hair because it's very dry and frizzy today. So there you go. I'm all oiled up. And then I thought, oh, I could just have this bottle by my nose all day and completely ignore everything that's going on. But that was a thought that went through my head. And then, of course, I laughed to myself because there's the finding the fun in things. But I, because I have lots to do. I'm working on a bunch of side projects, and I've got side projects like entrepreneurs do this, right? It's like we're always taking in new stuff. There's lots of kids to take care of that I want to.
Right. Yeah.
And so the choice, though, is it's like the completely checking out and going, oh, I could just check out, check out in oil land for a while. And also knowing that you've got to come back to the reality of what it is that you're dealing with in the 3D. And with travel being impeded for the last 2 years and now going on and on and on here in Canada, where we used to, I think a lot of people would go to the beach and just hit the beach face down for the first 10 days they're on holidays. I'm not saying that's a good management strategy, but I think that people were getting some relief that way, that they would just keep pushing through and go, well, I'll just wait until I get on vacation. I'll just wait until I get on
vacation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I think you mentioned a couple really important things there is that, well, we can't really just wait for the next vacation because life is happening and occurring. And that's, again, let's push ourselves so far through the survival mode that then we need to take that week off to regenerate. And then the real hard work comes back when we return. But you also mentioned, putting that essential oil up to your nose and smelling it. Well, what you're describing there is basically a little hack to, once again, recover and stimulate the system. So smell is one of the only senses that, is the only sense that goes directly into kind of our frontal lobe region. So it's kind of this low-grade stimulation that makes us feel good and gets that part of the brain to kind of kick up into gear. And then too, it's also kind of that bodily sensation that we feel with it. So quite commonly with a lot of recovery tips, tricks, and hacks, what we're trying to do is get different parts of our brain nervous system to fire up. And those parts of the brain and nervous system are designed to take in information from our own body. So instead of worrying about this outside world and everything that's being bombarded towards us, then our nervous system shifts and takes care of ourselves instead. And that's kind of the whole purpose behind a lot of these devices, or between a lot of different ancient healing modalities, is to speed up this process where our brains, our bodies, our nervous system, our immune system, our endocrine system actually gets a chance to self-regulate and take care of ourselves, our own body. And that's the healing process. And it does take time, but also it works on frequency as well, how often we do it. So if we're able to introduce more of these kind of quick recovery strategies throughout a day, then we're able to recover quicker. And the other thing is, we're not letting things boil over into the point where it becomes something that we need to recover within a week or month instead of just a few seconds. So it really is that energy management and concentrating on ourselves more than the outside world, so that then we're more equipped to deal with the outside world because our body is actually working the way it's supposed to.
So what are some of your favorite energy mastery hacks? Would you share? Would you dish a little?
Definitely. During the workday, it's deep breathing as often as I can. So just in between things, getting that oxygenation, but also the breathing centers are in that lower part of the brainstem, which is bodily functions. So bodily awareness, serotonergic system, fights depression. So just doing deep breathing as often as possible in between tasks is a great recovery strategy. If you did a whole bunch of sprints, you wouldn't say, don't breathe in deeply. Well, your brain and nervous system's doing a whole bunch of sprints, but we're not in improving the oxygenation to it, and we're not firing into our body sensation systems. So the easiest way is just multiple times through the day, develop those quick little habits where if it is a sprint, a mental sprint, you follow it up with some breathing exercises to recover quicker. And yeah, there's all sorts of research out there on breathing, and especially, yeah, you get into higher stake situations. You can look up articles on basically SWAT teams, special forces, snipers, all these people that have
parenting
situation. Yeah, exactly.
Parenting.
And different breathing techniques to recover from that child dumping crayons all over the place or painting the wall.
Yeah. Painting their brother.
Yes.
That never happens. Nope. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, those YouTube videos are hilarious. I think the funniest one I saw was the bag of flour that was coated the entire kitchen and living room. Wow.
Oh, so crazy. So right. It's just so crazy. My kids, when they were little, this is a funny one. So I was working all the time. And was a single parent really early on when they were very, very young. So I was very exhausted. I was so exhausted, I actually couldn't wake up. I could hear them up doing something, but I couldn't actually make myself get out of bed. And then when I did finally get up, which was probably 6 o'clock in the morning, they probably started their shenanigans at 4:30 or something, Anyway, so I get out and I was staying at a girlfriend's place, and they had taken Fruit Loops out of the box, and they had basically planted an entire garden throughout her whole house with these Fruit Loops. And then they had taken the entire 5-gallon water jug and watered it. Cup by cup. They cup by cup watered it. So you could imagine all these little Fruit Loop stains, fruity hoop stains in the everywhere. So she was also mumming was a single parent at that time too, with a young daughter. So she came out. I just remember us laughing about this, having a coffee and just looking at each other in really good appreciation about how funny and inventive these children were. Well, we were asleep. Yes. And so that happens in real life, not just on YouTube videos. So for those of you who are dealing with those kinds of things in real life, right. You're not alone. You're not alone. There's many stories of all those kind of crazy fun things, but they do cause, you can have a laugh about them. There's still the cleanup to do.
Yeah.
In life, so it's not as if, you're not just cleaning up after yourself. You've got all these other responsibilities. And if you're a manager or an entrepreneur, Dave, your program helps people specifically with that. But I was thinking, everyone's got a hat that says life manager, right? Like you're the manager of your own life. And so you really every day is an entrepreneurial venture, even if you're working for somebody else. It's like, what kind of life am I building here? You're the one who's the pioneer in your own life. You're the one who's deciding how you're going to either add value or detract from, and we all go through those dark nights of the soul, or the, path that isn't that awesome. And then the recovery, that's the hero's journey and what we're here to do. But we really are all life managers and entrepreneurs. So this stuff really is for everybody to be able to apply. And once you start doing these things, then you can pass it down, like whether that's in your business because you're the head of your business and you are mentoring other people, or because you have clients or customers that need to know this stuff, or your family and your friends, when they see that you're vibrant and they know that you have lots on your plate, and when you're human about it too, like when you say, man, I remember the time when. It's like,
exactly,
like at 6 o'clock this morning. It's like, up. Just kidding.
Most
slightly.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. But you do, it's like you choose how you're going to manage all that, all of your energy. Is there a time limit on the amount of times that you can actually exhaust your body, and when it will just quit? Like what are the signs that it's just kind of over? When you said crisis, and I think, what was your word? Crashes and crises. What is that? So when people are sort of aware of themselves, they can look for that stuff.
Right. it's going to be a combination of both physical and mental. And yeah, most commonly the physical is building up as we're concentrating on all the mental stuff.
Mhm.
And then it's either the body giving up or it's your state of mind. I've just had enough, and I can't take anymore. And then usually when you reach that point, then you start to feel the body giving out on you as well.
Mhm.
It's yeah, I can't take it anymore. My energy's just shot. I'm having way too many headaches, or I'm starting to become addicted to my morning coffee. I'm drinking pot throughout the day, and
Okay.
now it's no longer doing it for me. And pot of coffee to wake up, and then a bottle of wine to go to bed and shut off the mind after getting it so ramped up throughout the day. And then you're doing more and more of that, and it's becoming an issue, and you're now reliant on all these things, and they're no longer working for you. And then a lot of people will either recreationally or prescription wise go into uppers and downers as well, and all these things to try to keep things in check. And it's just one thing piled on top of another, and it's unsustainable. It might work for that short period of time, whether it's months or years, but when we start looking at decades, it's it's a horrible tragedy. And
Mhm.
then people just wake up, and now you've got this horrible diagnosis instead of just this little problem of stress and overwhelm. It's now something very physical, and the downside is a lot of people think this is that they've lived a normal life, and now the reason they've got this disease and this diagnosis is some outside event that they had no control over. And the opposite thinking needs to occur, is that in chronic lifestyle diseases is what's killing the majority of people out there, or taking away their kind of their regular lives and routines later on in life. And it's something that needs to be addressed, that what we're doing is just not working for our health. And chronic diseases, it's up there. It's like something like 90% of all diseases are going to be chronic lifestyle diseases.
Yeah.
And even if they have some big scary title behind them, if you actually looked and dissected on how things start to evolve with our health, then yeah, you'd realize that it's all the things we've piled up and we ignored, or that we've allowed to build up within our systems. And yeah, once again, it's just one of those messages that it's so hard to get people to focus on. It seems like part of the time we're just talking to the same circle of people that get it, and then there's an outside circle that yeah gets it, but of course isn't willing to face it or make changes to it. And then of course the other circle is people that just have no idea about it, and that are just harder to reach that way. But the more we can build that awareness, I think the more lives we're gonna help, and people that we're going to help out with this.
Yeah. One of the things I hear so often is I couldn't tell anyone about it. I couldn't tell anyone that I was fatigued or was having symptoms or of whatever. I just kept working through it. So I'm going to share a couple of stories just right now for people that are personal. So one is that, well, my very dear friend, lifelong, or not lifelong, we were best friends though, starting at about the age, I was probably 21 when we began to be friends. So she is 55 or 56, and she now is off on long-term disability. Smart, brilliant, beautiful woman, accomplished, talented, just good soul, and off on with neurological problems at 50, under 55. Like she's been off for a while. So, and she said, Leah, I just couldn't tell anyone. And this is my friend. It's like she couldn't tell anyone. And so that's one thing I want to encourage people to think about who they could tell. You're always welcome to come to masteryourlife.ca and send me an email and see what we've got there to help with improving your frequency or your health, because we have some tools there for you to be able to take back your own health. Because again, it's like this, we feel ashamed when we can't get our act together or can't get our whatever together, or that we've got to remain responsible for so many things. And that if we don't, we then have a nasty talk with ourselves about how irresponsible we are. I was supposed to take a few days off about 3 weeks ago. This is the more personal side of the story. I was supposed to take 3 days off 3 weeks ago. And the 3 days off that I ended up taking, I still have my phone on me. And was still answering, right? Yeah, I was like, because what if the grandchildren need something, right? What if somebody needs something? Or what if my business stuff needs something? So I said, I won't go on any social media, and I don't go on social media very often anyway. But that aside, and I don't watch much TV either. A very occasional YouTube interview is about it. So there I am packing my phone around, and it was just lit up the entire time. Like I never got 5 seconds away from it. And then, so it's like this stepping back and evaluating, was any of that actually urgent? Like, and I told people that I actually was going to take these 3 days off, but it was just kind of like it went in one ear and out the other. But that's because I've trained everybody that way.
Right. Yeah.
I'll take responsibility for this is how I've trained people, is just, oh yeah, call me anytime. What do you need? Let me fulfill that need. Right. So a lot of people do that, I think.
Big time. Yeah. It's the electronic leash. And if you want to stay tied up, that's the way to do it. Then the part about your friend and yourself there, it kind of really goes to that blending of the different circles. There's a circle of people who are hardcore at this, which is probably very, very little. And then there's, of course, that spectrum where you go farther out. There's more kind of excuses you make to not take care of yourself. And what situations that would be is going to be different for all of us. But two, if we get into this survival type thinking, and then we see somebody that could help us, it's almost that it seems just so foreign to us that, we can make these little changes that are going to make us feel better. They probably look at a person like yourself and say, well, yeah, there's no way I can manage it that way. Why would I approach her? Because, well, my life's a mess, and Leaha's able to get all this stuff done and take care of her own health as well. But if you talked with you, you understand you face your own challenges as well with this.
Right. Turn off the camera. Part of it is, yes, I've got lots of management tools, but I've got a big life too. I'd laugh about this. Like Dr. Phil wrote a book years ago, maybe called like seven days, your worst days, just how to manage the 7 worst days. And my mom opened that book. Like I didn't actually know about it, but she opened it and she goes, I was thinking about your life, Leaha. I went, you missed a couple chapters. So it's like lots of us have had, many millions of people have had very, very challenging circumstances to overcome. So I'm a true believer that anyone who wants to can. I never ever said it was easy, ever. Right. So when I say I don't watch TV, I really mean it. I haven't watched really TV for like, how long has Survivor been on? Whenever that started, probably, I just remember people going, are you going to watch that? I'm like, no, like, no. Not watching it. That's my real life. And I'm winning every challenge. So really,
a lot of people do use television to as their supposedly recovery time, right?
Yes.
But it also depends what you're watching. If you're watching like a murder show, which makes us once again ramped up and more emotionally attached to stressful situations, it's not recovery time. You're trying to get your next hit of dopamine, and once again, you're trying to stimulate the alertness centers in your brain more than anything else. you're not getting that serotonergic system firing or that body sensation system if you're watching something that's fear, violent, motivated. As much as it feels good, once again, it's kind of a temporary hit.
Mm-hmm.
And that too takes away from the recovery time, because that's part of kind of the survival system. And
is porn part of this? I got to ask, because it just,
oh, yeah,
so
definitely.
many people have this porn
Mhm.
addiction thing going on.
Big time.
So is it the same
Absolutely.
wiring?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all visual, and a lot of that light is going to fire into, once again, that midbrain region, that alertness, that dopaminergic system, and it makes us temporarily feel good. And but it doesn't really add into that body sensation. Porn versus a sexual relationship are two different sensations.
Mm.
And with one, you're getting, once again, more feedback into your own body, because you're with somebody and your body's actually getting stimulated, and you're getting both systems working. But in porn, you take that away, and all you're left with is firing that upper part of the brainstem instead of the entire brainstem. And it really does hit more of that one center than the other centers. And yeah, the biggest sensation we really get in life naturally would be from sex, because we're stimulating multiple sensory receptors, and it's somebody else stimulating them instead of ourselves as well. You can't tickle yourself, type thing.
Okay, everyone try. I know everyone wanted to. Go for it. Oh, you're right.
All sorts of things that can't be stimulated through watching it on a video. And yeah, we kind of ignore that in our virtual lives right now. And yeah, it's detrimental. And it fires into those alertness, external, outside world parts of our brain more than anything else. And two, I've got a prediction that because we're stimulating that part of our brain so much, the dopaminergic system and that midbrain region, that's the same area that when it deteriorates, turns into disorders like Parkinson's disease. And I predict that we're going to see a huge spike in those neurological disorders, because we're constantly using those systems way too much. And I imagine they're going to get burnt out more and more. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see huge increases in these responses, just because of what we're doing to ourselves on a frequent, constant basis.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Parkinson's, and because the neurological issues, of course, are near and dear to my heart, along with other things as well. But for people who are looking for kind of some solutions around that, you can get a hold of Dr. Dave at his clinic for help with neurology. You can also check out the masteryourlife.ca website, or direct people to go there again for solutions to help with neurological issues in general, overall, taking back your health. And I'm not going to go into the details of anything here and now today, but for people who are suffering with exhaustion, and all of this stuff actually manifests itself physically in eruptions in the body that are beyond exhaustion, so joint pain, skin conditions like autoimmune stuff, all IBS, like this, lots and lots of things are triggered just by sitting in front of the TV and watching and not engaging in life. And so weaning ourselves off these things is part of the task of the person who wants to master their life and master their emotional intelligence. And why would anyone care to do that? Why would I care if I can sit here and watch Game of Thrones and talk about it with all of my friends, because that's what most people, I don't know what people are actually talking about this at this time. But at one time it was like you couldn't even have a conversation unless you had watched Game of Thrones or some other thing like that. And I would go, no, I'm not watching any of it. Well, how about we talk about what's going on in your actual life? I want to hear about your life. What's happening with you? It's like, what? It just throws people right off. Isn't that a sad state? But yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and too, like a whole bunch of it right now, mental health and addiction is socially based. But a lot of people have come up and they're like, why is it that people have a better relationship with their dog than they do with other humans?
Mm.
And well, think about it. What do you do with a dog? You actually do things. You move around, you pet it, you touch it. It licks, touches you, and you develop those bonds because it's not all about a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going back and forth. If you think about it, we're basically the only animals on earth that have such developed language systems. All other animals, they're doing it basically by presence and by touch and feel and all these other let's call them lower grade sensations, but I call them basically the pyramid to development and brain health and everything else is all these other sensations that we're ignoring in our human relationships because there's people out there that have exceeded what we should be doing and they're horrible people, absolutely. But if we look at normal relationships, we're not hugging each other as much. We're not touching people as much, not holding hands, not doing all these other things that actually build our nervous system, our sensations, and develop those feel-good neurotransmitters like serotonin, oxytocin, and all these other sensations and body chemistry and firing of these parts of the brain. They're not there. And we continue to ignore these parts, and it's part of the problem as well. And it's not as commonly addressed because then we always just want to talk about it. Well, talking about it is such a kind of, it takes energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, haven't you been in a conversation where afterwards you feel drained?
Right. Yes.
And the answer is always going to be yes.
Yes. And I've been in ones that have been good. I've both. But this is a great story about the pup because it's in executive coaching. I would do this as well, which is that getting couples to turn off the TV and actually not talk. No talking. It's just all nonverbal. And they, well, I don't know what to do. I go, remember when you first started dating? Like, it doesn't have to be, it's not, it's just about, managing each other's physicalness in a enclosed space or whatever, but you've got to figure out how to do that, how to connect again through the nonverbal. And it's a very powerful thing. So thank you for that reminder, because I was like, that was really good. And I feel very fortunate to have grandchildren in my life that are young enough that they're nonverbal. Like, some of them are young enough, they're nonverbal, that it's just all about the cooing and the looking cute. So you're not saying anything profound to those guys.
And yet those are some of the most rewarding relationships in our lives.
Yes, so, 100%. Yes, definitely. So we've got about 4 minutes left. Dave, I want to talk about one of the things I notice with people also with this exhaustion thing and fatigue is disorientation. So just what is going on when people actually are disoriented? And that can be around like a location that they're used to going to, or not being able to find things in their home.
Right. So kind of more that brain fog, that feeling of not being present or being able to react in your life. Yeah, that's a brain that's not working well. That's a damaged brain. Everything you've done has been small little traumas to it that are causing it to not function. And brain fog, there's so many different things that are causing it, but basically that's telling us that we need to do something about our brain because it is not functioning properly. It's declining and it's just not there. And that comes back to, once again, getting into these healing processes so that we can enjoy life. For myself, like one of the biggest things kind of in my adult life has been going out and experiencing things. I've traveled all around the world, lived in different places, and developed all these memories. And with these memories, they come back and you feel them. And it's kind of the opposite of PTSD. It's like this good feeling that
joy,
for some reason just overtakes you here and there. And I noticed when I was going through my stressful part with being a professional and the entrepreneurial gauntlet that you have to run, is that I felt like I wasn't laying down new memories. And then all these memories that I had just seemed so far off. It's like I knew they happened, but I can no longer think about them and feel them anymore. And then when I went through this healing process, I've started to notice that I get these flashbacks of memories from 10, 20 years ago, and they just feel and energize my body. And it's amazing having these things come back to me. And basically, if we think about it, so much of our lives are about the memories we form. And basically, memories are dependent on how well your brain is functioning in that moment of time right now. So if your brain's not functioning well, your memories are not going to feel as good or to be as rich. And I think that's one of the key things when we actually think about enjoyment of life and fulfillment, is that, yeah, if we want to keep our good memories, whether it's about a family member, a loved one, about experiences, all of this, we really need a sharp brain at this point in time. Otherwise, the memories are going to be dull, hazy, fuzzy, and present is going to be dull, hazy, and fuzzy as well.
Yeah, I love it. And we're out of time. So thank you, Dr. Dave, for that words of wisdom. And I want to encourage everyone to tune into the next episode, because we're going to pick up on this thread of talking about the healing process and how to restore maybe memory or something like that. Because I think this is really important right now to chat about this. Many people are experiencing very low satisfaction. We're here to help. So for those of you who would like to join me over at masteryourlife.ca, do that. Enjoy your week. Love each other. Mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.